Hello, welcome back to another Blender 3D tutorial. We are gonna 3D model Martha's ceramics table lamp, and I will just walk you through the modeling process of this lamp. So without further ado, let's get into the video. First, we are gonna start by deleting everything from the scene and add a reference image under image reference. I have got this blueprint image. It comes into a weird angle. We are gonna fix it now by pressing N, go to the item to see the rotation. Now we are gonna select all of them and type in 0, press enter. Now it's all flat on the ground. We're gonna type in an X axis 90 to bring it up. By pressing numpad 1, we lock our view straight towards it. The image comes into 5 meter size, so let's adjust that to 49 centimeters. I'm doing it by adding a cube and adjusting cube size to 49 centimeters, which is 0.49. Now let's scale down our image. By Alt Z, we can switch to X-ray mode. It is approximately the right size. What we want to do is also adjust the opacity about 0.5 so we can see through it. I will delete now the cube. And as we can see, the scale has changed, which we want to apply. So Ctrl A and apply scale to change it back to value 1. Bring image slightly up to sit on the X-axis, the red axis. Duplicate the image, escape so it jumps back to the position, and type into Z-axis 90 to turn it sideways. So now if we switch between our front view, which is numpad 1, and our side view, which is 3, we can see it's all the same. Because this is a circular object, we don't need any extra blueprints for this. Now let's add a circle. I tend to reduce the standard 32 vertices to 10. I'm gonna reduce this to 0.088 centimeters in real life. Now I can adjust blueprint location. Numpad 7 is our plan view, and I'm gonna put it at the back of the circle. Now let's select our circle. Press tab to get into edit mode and F for filling the circle in. Now go to our modifier properties, add modifier, subdivision surface, and increase levels viewport to 2. Now as it is all selected, press E to extrude. We're gonna extrude up to where the pinch of the base is. Select all, gonna switch back to solid mode. Scale excluding Z-axis by pressing Shift Z. Now we have the main body of the base. We are gonna start shaping it. Add a loop cut. Add another loop cut and slide it almost to the bottom. Leave a gap between 2. Switching back to X-ray mode. Select both of the bottom circles. S for scaling, and scale it down to approximately where the bottom, the base is. Select the previously made loop cut and slide it down to create more curved bottom part. Switch back to X-ray mode. Add another loop cut and scale it in again. Let's create another loop cut just in the middle of the base. Take the top and scale it down start shaping towards where the blueprint shape is. Still keep top selected. Let's inset faces by pressing I, creating extra faces inside, and scale it where the pinch of the neck is. Now by pressing Alt and clicking left, select the bigger top circle and slide it down by pressing G and Z to lock it to Z axis. Now let's adjust our shape to be as close to the blueprint as possible. Remember, if you are selecting by dragging over, you have to be in X-ray mode, otherwise it's gonna just select the front part that it sees. I'm scaling these two circles down by Scale and Shift Z to exclude the Z axis. Alt left click to select the bigger bottom circle. In X-ray mode, I'm selecting the top circle and extruding it up to the end of the base. I will add 3 loop cuts that are evenly spaced out. You can increase the count of loop cuts by scrolling the mouse wheel. Now selecting the bottom of 3 loop cuts, enabling proportional editing, and scrolling down till I see the circle. Now selecting top of the loop cut and doing the same thing. Adjusting the size of the proportional editing by scrolling a mouse wheel. This is our shape. Let's select the top part, adding a little bit definition by insetting faces. Switching back to object mode, right click, auto smooth. And we have our base of the lamp. Let's add the metal part. I'm using cylinder this time. I am changing this to 10 vertices again and just lower the size of it and the length to something reasonable. Before I'm switching to edit mode, I'm moving it upwards to the location where it about is. Again, we are going to add a subdivision modifier. And now switching to edit mode. Scale it slightly down by pressing S and Shift Z to exclude the Z axis. Now let's add a loop cut to sharpen up the bottom part. Let's add another loop cut to keep the shape, the original width of the fixture. Now let's select both bottom parts and scale them. Select the middle loop cut, slide it down. Another loop cut to sharpen up the top part. Switch off proportional editing to allow doing fine shaping of the fixture. Add another loop cut to another loop cut, scale it up, use bevel, Ctrl B, making it a double loop cut. We'll add another loop cut in the main part to sharpen up this little edge here. And same for the top part. Now to sharpen up this little thing that holds it to the ceramic base, let's add another loop cut and use bevel by Ctrl B to create a double loop cut. Now let's select the top part and sharpen up this edge by insetting the face. Let's switch to X-ray mode and sharpen up the edge there on the bottom as well by insetting the face just a little bit. Now let's switch to object mode by pressing tab and turning it to shade auto smooth. Now let's create the light bulb fixture. Add a new object, take cylinder, keep 10 vertices and reasonable radius and depth. Move it up, add subdivision modifier and increase the viewport to 2. And let's get into edit mode and shape it again. Now let's create these sharp circles that holds the armature for the lampshade. Start by insetting bulb fixture first, scaling it out and extrude it up. Now same again, inset, scale it out and extrude it up. Let's add loop cuts to sharpen up the edges. Control B. Now let's set those faces again. And now extrude it up. Add a loop cut. Control B to sharpen it up. Now select the top vertices and just inset to sharpen up that top edge. Now let's switch to object mode and shade auto smooth. Now let's create the part where the light bulb would be screwed in. Shift S to bring cursor to selected, to bring it up so we don't have to go from the bottom up. Add cylinder, keep to 10. This is where it's going to be very important. Bring it up. You can scale it. Now let's go into edit mode and add 18 loop cuts. Let's add a simple deform modifier. Switch it to Z axis. Let's add subdivision modifier to see how it will look when we will join it with the main light bulb fixture. Let's type in angle 270. Let's go into edit mode. Select the top part, add one smaller inset, then inset further. Now press M and merge at center. Now let's select every second vertices by pressing Alt-Shift and right-clicking the one vertices that we need. Scale, Shift-Z to exclude the Z-axis and bring it outwards. Let's adjust the twist angle, times it 4, and we have a tight twist. Let's go back to object mode, apply Simple Deform. We can adjust the width of the screw by scaling it and excluding Z-axis just to make it wider. Let's go back to object mode, remove the modifier, select fixture and press Ctrl J to join. Now let's go into edit mode. To select both parts that I just joined separately, click on vertices and press L. It's going to select everything that is linked with that vertices. Select everything that I haven't connected through mesh but is a same object. So now switch to faces, select top faces and delete faces. Also let's delete these faces that we inset. Let's take the top points that we scaled out and scale them slightly back in to create the top part more circular. what we can do is take the top circle, just extrude it slightly up, switch to X-ray mode, select both top circles and scale it down. So this is our screw part for the light bulb. Now let's create this armature that holds the lampshade. Add plane. Let's reduce it to something more reasonable. 0.1, so 10 centimeters at the moment will work just fine. Let's get into edit mode and now adjust the location to keep this orange dot in that position. Adjust it on y-axis, get nice and slim. Let's go back to front view. Push it back to where the kink is. Now let's extrude that down to follow the line of the blueprint. So now we have armature. Let's add a solidify, change to offset 1 and change the thickness to 4 millimeters, 0.004. Let's get out of the edit mode, apply the solidify modifier in object mode and add subdivision modifier and increase it again to 2. Now let's refine the shape by adding loop cuts. Let's switch to X-ray mode, select the end scale, lock it to X-axis and press 0 to even the points out. Let's add a loop cut here. And to make these parts sharper, let's add a loop cut. Just goes through the whole shape, and Ctrl B to sharpen up the both edges. Do the same on the top part as well. Press tab to switch back to object mode. Now change your pivot point to 3D cursor. Duplicate the one armature and rotate it by 120 degrees. And we have 3-legged armature. Now you can take all these 3 bits and Ctrl J to join it in a same object. And now the easiest part. Let's change this back to median point. Now the easiest part is to create a lampshade. Ctrl A, add a cylinder. Now we are gonna scale it up to fit the actual size. We are going to add a subdivision modifier again. Switch to top view. Switch to X-ray mode by Alt-Z. Switch to face mode and select both top and bottom faces. And press R to inset the faces. Now while they are selected, right click, go to loop tools and bridge it. So now when you look into solid view, you will see that it has created a hole. Make it more sharp. Now to create the little edges that holds the armature is holding, add another loop cut, switch to X-ray mode, Ctrl B to spread these 2 loop cuts out and scale them outwards so slightly. So now switching to the solid mode, we can see there's little edges which we are going to sharpen up. I'm going to isolate lampshade by pressing slash. Again, add a loop cut and Ctrl B to bring it very close to other loop cut. Now let's add a loop cut on the edges. Now going back to full image, shade smooth. Need to adjust. Let's adjust the armature. Select all the end bits, scale them slightly and so they don't poke out of the shade. Switch to solid mode, bring them slightly up so they sit on top of that edge we just created. Just the last thing, we are gonna add a little rim as it is a ceramic base. In the real life it would have this little edge, so let's inset faces, extrude upwards and inset again. We can sharpen it up by, I think, just one loop cut, just to give a little bit of a more pronounced edge. So this is it. This is our Martha Ceramics table lamp. Stay tuned for the part 2 where we are gonna texture paint this, and I will show you how to use different texture brushes to create lovely ceramic glazed base. Anyways, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Please like this video, subscribe if you want to see more tutorials like this. Let me know in comments what other items you would like me to see 3D model for you, which you would like to follow. Yeah, thank you for being here. Thank you for support and have a good day.